Let me mute her.
Hello, welcome to AXIOM FLUX Season 3 on 16th of October 2016. This is the first pilot episode that we're doing, and tonight we're going to be covering the Syria conflict amongst a few other things, and I'm joined with my good friend Stav, who's always with us, and Angela, and it just happens to be Angela's Earth Day today, and I'd like to thank her for joining us and sharing company tonight. So how are we all doing? We good?
Right, PJ. Evening, Angela. Happy Earth Day again.
Thank you. Hello, everybody.
Yeah, good. So I'm going to kick off with just a first part of my articles because I've got quite a few tonight, and in between I'll let Stav cover his bit on the Syrian conflicts, and in between all of that we'll have a good chat about whatever it is that we feel we need to mention. So I'm going to start with my screen share. Hopefully we run smoothly tonight, and you can see my first article, yeah?
Yep.
Brilliant. Yeah. There's no more of an important place to start in the world than this article, apparently, which is it's going back a bit now. Most of my articles tonight are going to be covered a bit late because, unfortunately, this show should have been put out last Sunday, but for various reasons we wasn't able to achieve that. So I'm going to start now with the world's most important article of all time in recorded history. French authorities suspect Kim Kardashian armed robbery was an inside job. And there's many reasons I've chose to start with this, because not only that, every other media outlet out there seems to be doing the same. So I thought I'll start with this quick video, because there's no better way to explain it than Kim Kardashian's pretty face.
You guys, look at this diamond I just got. It's 160 carats polished and 404 carats rough. Thank you. No big deal. This pink diamond is $28 million. This is $5 million yellow, and that white is 3.
No big deal. This pink diamond is $28 million. This is $5 million yellow, and that white is 3.
So French authorities reportedly suspect the raid on Kim Kardashian's Paris apartment could have been an inside job. The reality star was left badly shaken when 2 masked men dressed as police officers broke into her apartment in Paris in the early hours of Monday morning. West was performing in New York. According to page 6, a source claims investigators believe the raiders may have known the whereabouts of the reality star from an employee at the hotel or someone in her own team. French police suspect that the 5 alleged robbers had some contact with her security and were tipped off about her procedures, and that's the claim. So you're thinking, well, is this the biggest story of all time, and have we ever seen anything like this? Well, let's have a look, because it's not the first time I think it's happened, and it did happen quite recently with Naomi Campbell. She with more assault allegations after supposedly attacking a leak in her PR team. So this basically is Naomi Campbell is enthralled in yet another assault scandal after a model reportedly got in a tussle over a cell phone with a former member of a PR team. Gets more interesting. If you're wondering why this sounds familiar, it's because it's eerily similar to 4 other court rulings against her, following attacks on employees, some even with cell phones. Anyhow, the most recent incident, the 46-year-old supermodel allegedly left a 26-year-old publicist with a bruised face, and after believing he was tipping off the paparazzi following her foot operation at the end of last year. Apparently, the alleged victim was taken off Naomi's account before the altercation after the company believed he had gotten too close to the client, showed up to the model's NYC hotel just before the holidays while she recovered from surgery, after the well-known diva suspected the Bell Pottinger employee of letting the paps know her whereabouts. She reportedly tried to snatch his phone away from him as he sent a text. And however, according to the Daily Mail, a source close to the model slams the spin with this, saying there's more to the story. It says at the time Naomi had an operation and was in a wheelchair or on crutches, and the photographers seemed to know where she'd be. She wanted to get the phone off the PR man because he was texting in her presence, and she grabbed it. There was no fight as such, as she has absolutely no idea how he got a bruised face. He seemed to be a bit of a Walter Mitty character, a fantasist. He was always boasting about his colourful background. He might well have been flirtatious. He started to get addicted to the lifestyle. His head got turned by the bright lights and celebrity, and he became a bit delusional. She doesn't recognise his account of events at all. She does regret snatching the mobile phone because she was a bit paranoid about being followed by paparazzi. But she has no idea about him receiving any injuries. Says, okay, so she did grab the phone. She just isn't sure how he got the bruises. So the main point, obviously not to do with Naomi Campbell fearing paparazzi, because if anyone knows the history on this certain person, then they'll be able to see straight through that one. But it's mostly focused on the PR firm Bell Pottinger, which is what I'm going to go into tonight. And it starts with this next article, because while all that were being put out with Kim Kardashian, these are the 5 stories the media ignored while reporting on the Kardashian robbery, or alleged so-called robbery, if it ever did take place. So back on 4th October now, and this one's from the source Anti-Media. It says, one of the saving graces of ailing corporate media for the folks setting the agenda, anyhow, is its relentless ability to hyper-focus the public's attention on altogether meaningless events. Take, for instance, an armed robbery that sees property stolen but no one armed. Such an event is unfortunate, yes, but such is life. People get robbed. It certainly isn't something that should consume the news cycle, particularly when developments of actual importance are unfolding around the world. Yet, that's exactly what happened this week, or the first week of October, after reality TV star Kim Kardashian was robbed at gunpoint in Paris. So these are the 5 ones. I'm going to read much of the start of the article. It's going to move on. So the number 1 is the diplomacy between Russia and the US in Syria is dead. Following weeks of failed talks and escalating violence in the war-torn Syrian city of Aleppo, diplomatic efforts between Russia and the United States officially created on Monday, with the Russian deputy foreign minister declaring, open quote, there has been no exchange of information, end quote, between the two countries, of late, and State Department spokesman John Kirby saying the US is suspending its participation in bilateral channels with Russia. For those paying attention, the news shouldn't have come as a shock following a US airstrike that killed 62 Syrian soldiers, for which the US blamed bad intel, and an attack on a UN humanitarian convoy near Aleppo that killed a dozen aid workers, for which the US blamed Russia. The latest Syrian ceasefire broke by Washington and the Kremlin officially collapsed 2 weeks ago. Since then, the fighting in Aleppo has intensified, and the accusations being hurled have grown bolder. One US ambassador equated the Russian air campaign in Syria to barbarism. Indeed, all of the official breakdown of diplomacy regarding Aleppo really means is that the fighting will go on, and it will undoubtedly get worse, much worse. The only difference is that now our leaders don't have to pretend to be trying to talk a way out of it. So that's one which I'm sure Stav might touch on later on in a bit more detail and in depth. the second one is the Pentagon dumped $500 million into making propaganda for terrorists. So this second piece on this article is what I'm going to start focusing in on now with me material, and I'm going to pause this one and move on to this, because this is where it all starts. And it started by the Bureau of Investigative Journalism, the Sunday Times or the Times, and they first broke this article with fake news and false flags, how the Pentagon paid a British PR firm $500 million for top secret Iraq propaganda. So for those that never came across this, due to the Kim Kardashian, you might be interested to pay attention now. For those that have already gone into this and for themselves, I'm sure you're moving on to the next step, which is every minute a day, and which is something that Stav's been trying to keep up with. And I know from what he's been telling me, he's had a great deal as the changes are happening so quick. It's becoming almost impossible. So let's just cover this now. The Pentagon gave a controversial UK PR firm over $500 million to run a top secret propaganda program in Iraq. And the Bureau of Investigative Journalism can reveal. Bell Pottinger's output included short TV segments made in the style of Arabic news networks and fake insurgent videos, which could be used to track the people who watch them, according to a former employee. The agency's staff worked alongside high-ranking US military officers in their Baghdad Camp Victory headquarters as the insurgency raged outside. Bell Pottinger's former chairman, Lord Tim Bell, confirmed to the Sunday Times, which works with the Bureau on this story, that his firm had worked on a covert military operation covered by various secrecy agreements. Bell Pottinger reported to the Pentagon, the CIA, and the National Security Council on its work in Iraq, he said. Bell, one of Britain's most successful public relations executives, is credited with honing Margaret Thatcher's steely image and helping the Conservative Party win 3 elections. The agency he co-founded has had a roster of clients including repressive regimes and Asma al-Assad, the wife of the Syrian president. In the first media interview any Bell Pottinger employee has given about the work for the US military in Iraq, video editor Martin Wells, who no longer works for the company, told the Bureau his time in Camp Victory was shocking, eye-opening, and life-changing. So let's just bring this little chart up now, because these are going to be a few points I'm going to cover now. Starting off with the top one in the corner. I'm not sure if you can see that clearly with the size and all, but this is basically what Martin Wells is going to talk about in this video I'm just about to play. But it's how these videos that are put out there and how people watch these videos, they manage to monitor them through Google Analytics and things like that. So I'm going to play the video, which I think this guy, Martin Wells, explains much better than I possibly could.
I got a phone call from my agency, who I worked with and got lots of work from, saying, would you like to work abroad? Role. Okay, for the interview tomorrow. You need to get here for the interview tomorrow. And so, okay, yeah, no problem, come on. The address I was given was in central London. I went into the building, up to the 6th floor, and there were guards on the 6th floor, which I thought was quite odd. And it turned out to be a military media kind of intelligence unit. And they showed me around. We had a quick chat, and I must have been there for about 20 minutes, and that was it. And they said, great to see you, thanks very much. And I asked, okay, so I've got the job. I said, oh, no, you've got it. And I said, where am I going and when do I start? They said, well, your tickets will be emailed to you later today. You'll be going out on Monday morning. Okay, this is a Friday. I'm talking to these guys. And I said, so where am I going? Oh, you're going to Baghdad. I was expecting to be in the green zone. But no, we were on a base called Camp Victory, which surprised me. So when I first arrived at the building that I was going to be working at, it struck me that it was a very secure building. Signs outside saying, do not come in. If you're not, it's a classified area. If you're not cleared, you can't come in. So when I first started working on it, I didn't know how big a project this was. And I just assumed it was news gathering. But having seen the process and worked in the process, I then realized this was a big project. And the budget was large as well for this project. It was around about 120 million a year for this project. And that's a lot of money. Whilst I was working there were 3 different types of strand, really. So we would do the news items that would go out on the news and go out on various channels locally. The kind of stories, a bomb would go off, a car bomb would go off, people would die. We would have people out there filming it. We would then edit it into stories that would then go out on various channels within the region. And we were to make it, as best we could, look as if it was made locally, which it is shot locally and it is edited locally. It was more to make it look like it was Arabic, to make it look like it was shot in the region, which it was, but to make it look like it was created by Arabic TV almost. So it was given the impression that this was done by an Arabic company, in my view. And then there were what they call TVCs, which are television commercials, say Al Qaeda are bad. There would also be things called VCDs, which we would make. The way I was approached about VCDs was I was asked by my boss, we need to make this style of video, and we've got to use Al Qaeda's footage and all their propaganda out there to do it. We need it to be 10 minutes long, and it needs to be in this file format, and we need to encode it in this manner. And yeah, that's great. And we're going to track it via Google Analytics. All the VCDs that were made, and quite a considerable amount, were taken by Marines when they were going into various villages or they were doing raids, whatever patrols they were on, and they were dispersed that way. That was the quickest, easiest, and also, I guess, the most sensible way of doing it. Because if they're raiding a house and they're going to make a mess of it looking for stuff anyway, they just drop an old VCD there. Then when whoever comes back, they're going to pick it up and they're going to start checking stuff through. So it kind of made sense to do it that way. And these were discs that were made to play in a thing called Real Player. And what happened to a Real Player is you'd get a white screen before anything would happen. They came up with this ingenious idea that within the white flash that Real Player does, where the VCD is being played, because Real Player has to connect online to run. That little bit of code would then be connected to a Google Analytics account. And so that way you could have a track and know where that VCD has been played. So when the VCD has been delivered, when they're watched and the tracking kicks, it makes a hit with analytics. When you log into it, 24 hours later, it will tell you which IP address and where in the world it's been looked at. So for instance, if one's looked at in the middle of Baghdad, okay, you know there's a hit there. If one 48 hours later or a week later shows up in another part of the world, then that's the more interesting one. And that's what they're looking for more, because then that gives you a trail of, okay, so someone sent it to this person, or they've been here and they've gone elsewhere. So it gives you a track of somebody who could possibly be a threat. Some of the VCDs ended up in some interesting countries. I think I had a couple in Iran, obviously in Iraq, in several places. I think there was one in Syria, but the most interesting one was in America. No idea how it got there, but all my job was to collate that data and pass it on. So I would do a printout for the day, and if anything interesting popped up, hand it over to the bosses, and then it would be dealt with from there. When we made something, The process would be, I would show it to my producer, they'd be happy with it. We would then get in seniors in the office, they'd be happy with it. Then we get the 2 colonels in to look at it, look at the things we've done throughout the day. They'd be fine with it. It would then go to General Petraeus. He would then look at it and his team would look at it. And if they're happy with it, it would then go on up the line if it needed to. If he couldn't sign off on it, it would go up on the line to the White House, and then it was signed off up there, and the answer would come back down the line. I was in and out of Baghdad on this contract for over a year or so. I just couldn't do it any longer. When you've got over 500 tapes with more atrocities than you can believe could ever be committed to another human being on, there's only so much you can take. And also, you just think flying in and out of a war zone all the time, you're elevating that risk of not being able to come back home.
All right. So Bell Pottinger was, by Tim Bell, and it's not the first time that they've been, exposed for certain things. This is an open letter from a website called Bloggerheads, and it's done by Tim Ireland on corruption in politics and the media. And back in 2011, this entry was posted, where Tim Ireland has sent off an open letter to Bell Pottinger, and in it, it states I think the most charming thing about the Wikipedia account of yours that I uncovered was the author's inclination to accuse others of being biased and/or having a hidden agenda, when all along he or she was making edits according to a hidden bias agenda dictated by money. So you can read all these articles in more depth yourself. I'll attach all the links to the description for easy reference after this live talk. So this is just going into Wikipedia entries that have been edited out by allegedly some of Bell Pottinger's team. So that's one interesting thing for you to look into. And the next one is this video, which is Bell Pottinger secretly filmed boasting of political access and doing PR for despotic regimes. The Bureau investigates, as also in the past had its own stories itself, but lately it does seem to have turned a leaf, and I just thought I'd mention that for anybody out there thinking I'm standing by a particular media outlet, which I don't. I just cover what I need to cover, and really don't take any sides towards any of them. So this is the next video.
The president is not particularly happy with his Wikipedia entry or the Uzbek government's Wikipedia entry. You did mention earlier that there might be ways to would that be something which we could deal with? Yeah, okay.
We've got all sorts of dark arts. I told him he couldn't put it in the written presentation because it's embarrassing if he gets that correct, because he said losing.
We had a client come to us last year called AXIOM, which is the biggest money transfer business in the whole of Africa. When you did a Google search, the entire first 5-10 pages, just about everything about them, was about a former employee that was holed up in Guantanamo Bay in 3 months. You could look through the first 20 pages of Google where after there wasn't a mention of it. And that's just through actually good SEO, search engine optimization.
People working in our business, we've got connections with Liberal Democrats and Labour, but we do pride ourselves particularly on strengthening our connections with the Conservative Party. And from my own point of view, I've been working with people like Steve Bilton and David Cameron and George Osborne for 20 years plus. As I say right now, Edward Llewellyn, Prime Minister's Chief of Staff, he was my deputy in Central Office for a long time. Steve Bolton was my deputy in a different capacity in different ways. I mean, I know all these people. There is not a problem about getting the messages through to them.
What do you think about William Hague's?
I think Cameron listens to him a lot.
You want to speak up?
William.
Yeah.
I wouldn't quite say he was on my speed dial, but I guess
You can get hold of him.
I can get hold of him, and I talk to him.
There's more.
So what have you done for Sri Lanka, for instance?
Inside the UK, we've added some critical dialogue at governmental level. We have added some balance outside of a couple of media channels, so the Times and Channel 4 are particularly staunch in their opposition. And there's a couple. We wrote President Ramaphosa's speech to the UN last year, which was very well received. You know, it went a long way to taking the country where they needed to go. Fundamentally, though, they set up a thing called the Peace and Reconciliation Commission, which has got one fundamental flaw in it and in its remit on investigating what has gone on in the past, try and bury the past. And unfortunately, because that is the case, media like Channel 4 and the Times find that the whole Peace and Reconciliation Commission is flawed.
All right, so there you go. You've got Bell Pottinger writing speeches and all sorts of stuff for presidents around the world. Into my next article now is this one from the Daily Star, which is shock claims a secret Al-Qaeda propaganda campaign made for the Pentagon. Now, these are some of the videos that I've just shown in the other one that they would have used. And if you're thinking that this breaks more recently, it is actually going back to more focused around Iraq than really particularly anything else. I know people who I've spoke to seem to think that this, you know, this story just breaks out everything that's ever been done with ISIS and all those beheadings and everything else that's been put out. I don't really need to list them all, but this is more focused to do with Al-Qaeda. That have come out. It is kind of, you know, heading conspiracy theorist 9/11. Whether they are, you know, aiming for that or not aiming for that, it's really hard to tell, in my opinion. Which I'll, you know, have something to show you later on in this show. That'll explain why I base my reasons on that. So this is the next one, which is the video that Paul Joseph Watson put out last year, mid-July. And the reason why I'm putting this one out is because I don't want you to think that the revelations from Bell Pottinger and the Pentagon connection is anything to do with recent beheadings of ISIS and things like that, because as far as I've looked, there's nothing out there that can support that. It's mainly, as I said earlier, just focused in Iraq with Al-Qaeda and, you know, Bin Laden himself. But that doesn't mean to say you can't keep your open mind, because I always try to tell people, think freely for yourself and do your own research and question whatever you need to question. We're living in a world where really, what can we expect? It's it's quite, you know, bizarre. So this is
a video purportedly released by the pro-Russia hacktivist group Cyberberkut shows an alleged staged ISIS beheading being recorded in a film studio. Please note that this footage does not show a beheading of any kind, whether real or staged. The clip shows actors recreating a typical ISIS beheading in front of 2 cameras and a lighting rig in a studio constructed to resemble desert scenery. The production is also being supervised by a director who appears to give the executioner orders on how to act. The release of the video was accompanied by a claim that it was retrieved from the phone of an assistant to John McCain, who accompanied Senator McCain on a trip to Ukraine, although there's no proof for that assertion. It seems fairly obvious that this production wasn't the work of the Islamic State, so who's behind it? There are a few possibilities. One, the video could have been created by a conspiracy theorist who wanted to create a buzz on the internet, but the sophisticated and expensive nature of the setup seems to rule out that explanation. Russian hackers could have produced and released the video, Russian government or not, in an effort to embarrass John McCain and fuel conspiracy theories that the United States is secretly supporting ISIS. The video could also have been taken from a production of a drama or a movie related to ISIS, but again, there's no accompanying evidence for that claim. To me, the second explanation that this was released and produced by the Russian hackers themselves appears to be the most likely. So who do you think is behind this bizarre video? Let me know in the comments below. Subscribe.
Right, so that's the end of that one. And as I said, I wanted to put this one out because this is really the only video that ever got released, and as I said, no one's ever come any clearer to working out its original genuine source. So back to the old Bell Pottinger. Actually supposedly good at is dodgy regime, unruly protesters, Bell Pottinger can help. From the ousted Thai PM to fracking company Quadrilla, aside, the PR firm Bell Pottinger represents some of the world's most notorious clients. Tim Bell, who masterminded Margaret Thatcher's election campaigns, explains why he thinks his business is a force for good. At first sight, the Curzon Street offices of Bell Pottinger Private or everything a conspiracy theorist could hope for. Next door, guarded by uniformed police officers with machine guns, squats the immense embassy of Saudi Arabia, a country with which the controversial PR firm's even more controversial chairman, Tim Bell, has had decades of opaque, often defense-related dealings. Beyond the embassy is the rest of Mayfair, where businesses are discreet, ethics are flexible, and rich people with reputations to upgrade are increasingly plentiful supply. In the lobby of Bell Pottinger, there are cream leather benches for visitors. The day's newspapers hang from clips on the wall. The implication is that Bell, who has worked in PR or advertising since 1959, can get you or your company or government into them. Or quietly arrange the opposite. We keep a lot of people out of the media, says James Henderson, the firm's CEO. From the lobby, a tiny lift whisks you up to Bell's top floor office. It is a long corner room with a row of windows looking out over Mayfair's wine red and bone white rooftops. In the center of the room is a large desk, almost in the shape of a quotation mark. Along its outer curve are a few chairs for clients. On the inner, there is an oldish computer, 2 telephones, 2 used coffee cups, a half-full ashtray, and Bell himself. Lord Bell of Belgravia, who was knighted by his long-standing client and political soulmate Margaret Thatcher in 1990, is 72, but he still works full-time and still looks like an old-fashioned PR man from Central Casting. Slick back hair, assertive tie, tailor shirt, quick smile. He talks in a half-gravely, half-chocolately voice and instantly drops your first name into his quick sentences. He is an icon in the business, says Mark Bukowski, another British PR veteran and an historian of the industry. A lot of people have tried to write his obituary, but their underestimate is steely determination. He has a very powerful network, contacts all over the world. Bell Pottinger are a formidable multinational. For many, many years, they have operated in the shadows as agents of influence. So I'm not going to read any more of that. Really says enough. So what happened is Lord Bell recently on the 26th of August 2016 is this article dated from the Drum, and it says he departs from Bell Pottinger to open up a new PR firm called Sans Frontières, which has its own interesting storyline and timeline when you look into it. Lord Tim Bell has stepped down from his namesake PR agency, putting an end to a 30-year tenure. The Bell Pottinger founder and former PM chief to Margaret Thatcher announced the intention to step down with immediate effect on the 25th of August, with plans to open a new firm. In a statement in which Bell himself was not quoted, the company said that he, which I don't get any of that, said that he, don't make any sense, but anyway, would like to step back from the day-to-day running of the business, but not to retire, and from next year he will continue to provide his personal advice to clients through a new business which he will be forming. And the company is, as far as my research goes, is no longer named Sans Frontières. It's this one called Bell Pottinger Geopolitical Services. You can have a look at all these sites and links at the end. Interesting thing with this site, I think, is the chemtrails in the back in the plane. Communication solutions that work across the globe. So there you go. Bell Pottinger Geopolitical is a team of highly experienced specialists offering international strategic communications advice, delivery and support anywhere in the world and across all media channels. Working for brands, companies, international corporations, political organizations, governments and individuals, we help identify and solve challenging and complex problems using communications to deliver enhanced reputations through fully integrated campaigns. Our approach is strategy-led, research-driven, insightful and creative. It is based around clearly defined outcomes and deliverables, backed by our breadth and depth of experience, developed at the highest levels in business, politics, diplomacy, the military, and the media. Success is defined by the positive impact we make on our clients' reputations. So their clients are mainly, as it said, military, government, you know, MOD, DOD. They get quite a lot of money from them. And they give a bit back to, like, you know, Tories and that. I think it were last year, year before, they give them about 14 grand in one report. But they're always giving them, you know, little sly backhanders and that, I imagine. So just to round this off for my first part, which I've really got to say a great well done to 21st Century Wire, because, wow, the speed and the accuracy of how they report things lately is just astonishing. This is a brilliant article. It explains pretty much everything if you were to actually look into this like I've done and pick things out and follow it on. Do go and have a look at this article in depth. It's one done by Sean Elton on October the 4th. I'm not going to read it all because I do think that you really need to take a look at this one yourself. It covers pretty much a portion of what I've already gone through, with many, many more things attached, connected into the beheadings of, what's his name now? Stephen Sotloff, I think his name was, and James Foley, which is very interesting itself when you start looking up these two people and their history and backgrounds and things what they've been into, as you know, both of them was journalists. But with all this information that comes out, it's really difficult, and I do have to say this because I'm usually the first one to, you know, to give condolences to people who have lost family members, and I'm not the first one to shout that, you know, it's a hoax, it's a false flag and all that until I've done enough research. But when you're doing this research, you never actually get that nitty gritty. You can only find little bits and pieces and just assume. You still end up assuming. It's never really conclusive. But when you start connecting it up with other things that you see, which is separate, to what this article is about in particular, you do build up a good library of knowledge, and it really does. You do really find yourself at the end sort of like supporting Russians and the things that they're saying, and I really find that quite strange that for us in UK, and I guess for your wherever you are in the world, to have to resort to Russia and other things like that, which is all interesting the same, but it's just quite surprising, I thought. So this is end of my part one. I will return with a bit more. I'm going to go into a bit more depth on Bell Pottinger and some of the propaganda and techniques that we can use to avoid getting roped into stupid storylines and just stitched up videos and whatever it is. So over to staff for now, and if Angela's still with us, we can all have a little comment on some of the articles I've shown. Any comments?
Yeah. Yes, propaganda. You probably touched on perhaps a very small part of it, PJ, because there's a hell of a lot more, as we know. Well, as we assume, it's just one tiny little player in the whole grand scheme of this propaganda reality shaping people's lives, shaping the world, shaping our reality, all under falsehoods and lies.
Yeah,
that's the sad thing about the whole shebang, and when you say, well, what is reality to people, and how do you until you start looking at this stuff really deeply and find, well, reality is, to most of the normal everyday people that don't do research like you and Angela and many of us now that have come to question what they call is reality. We realise that it's just a whole great big illusion, and unfortunately, at the end of all this, I know you touched on the two journalists there that was allegedly, can we say, or assassinated by Jihadi John or whatever his name was, one of the Beatles. That's what always gets me about this. It's ridiculous, the names they give them. But anyway, that's another thing. But there is a lot of innocent people and children and families being murdered and destroyed, and lives turned upside down at the end of this game. Let's call it what it is.
Yeah, and that's the main thing that we need to focus on, and that's exactly what they use with propaganda, is the things that pull at your heartstrings and that sort of thing. Get your emotions, that's what they do. I will be going into much more, as you said. It's just a small pinprick with the revelations of Bell Pottinger and Pentagon. That's definitely so small, it's really not even worth mentioning, which is why I guess they'd rather mention Kim Kardashian. Who knows?
Well, that's right. But then you start checking into the seedy characters who's billionaires, like George Soros and his little NGOs, like the White Helmets that he's associated with, and then you look at the United Nations, all of that, what's going on behind the background with the United Nations. But it's all good work. Nice research, PJ, really good. And you're not the only one looking at these things. I think quite a few of us are, and you've done a lot more research into that side of it than I have, even with just this articles you've pulled up tonight. I read the mainstream. I do follow 21st Century World. I think Patrick Ennison is one of the...
Yeah, brilliant. I mean, the week that we was actually researching, ready to put it out for last Sunday, I mean, I'd spent so much time going down every route that 21st Century Wire have obviously had to go down to produce the article they did. And it took me quite a long time to get all that knowledge, and they've just, everything that I discovered on my journey last week, they've put it all out in that one article. So make sure if you are listening to this, you do go and take a good read of that. I do recommend.
Okay. Well, I'll put it over to Andrew, see what she's got to say about what she's seen.
Well, yeah, I'd say again, good research there, because there's a lot in there that I've not heard of before, you know, with that company. But I think the conspiracy theorists have been, or realists, have been saying like this all along, haven't they? That it's a lot of it's fake. You know what I mean? A lot of what we get anyway is fake. I mean, what do we know that's real? You know what I mean? And it's like this Kim Kardashian. I didn't even know who she was. I thought I'd look her up, you know, with this robbery. When I heard that it was all, it could have been set up, I thought, oh, I'll look up who she is and what I thought she was a singer. But I watched a couple of her shows and I thought, oh my God, you know what I mean? It's crazy. Oh, it's sad that she's getting all that money for what? What are they doing? Oh dear.
Well, these 3 more points to the article on what other news stories we all missed while that were being put out. And I'm going to let Stav do his bit first, and then it gives me time to sort my tabs out and return with my next section of stories. So up to you now, Stav.
Yeah, okay. Well, my articles are pretty self-explanatory to people like yourself, PJ, and Andrew, and a lot of people. It's pretty much old news, but it's just in case there's people just waking up to all this now, and maybe 1 or 2 may watch this this Hangouts and spur them on to get to looking at further things. So my apologies if it's a little bit not naive, but a little bit old hat, some of this, but I think it needs to be revisited now for people coming along that's just waking up to all this, because it can be forgotten, all this stuff and that sort of thing. So it's not as in-depth and as as your articles there, PJ. But I'm not apologising for it. It is what it is. I mean, I'd like to sort of say, well, you know, what's going on in Syria at the moment up to a year ago. So I'm just sort of going from the other day. It was the if I can get this to work. I'm just going to get these tabs up because for some reason it takes ages to reload these things now, PJ. So let me share my screen. Sorry about this.
Yeah. Cheap up productions. If people knew what we had to go through to, make one of these episodes, I mean, I'm ready for a script crash any moment, which will not make things any easier. But
this is I like to mention the sites because it's their work. So Southfront, they do videos and war reports on what's going on almost daily in Syria, and it's stuff that comes through, not the mainstream. It comes through. Can't say 100% sure, but it seems pretty credible that a lot of this comes straight off the street of Syria, through the alternative forums and stuff. A lot of these. There's not many of them, but they're sort of all interlinked with each other. So they're reasonably credible, I think, much more credibility than mainstream media, that's for sure. And it turns out that normally a day later, the mainstream media, if their hand is forced, have to cover it, but obviously with their own spin on things. So it normally works out that these are pretty up-to-date sort of things on what's happening on the ground, these sites. So I'll give them a plug. Southfront, I watch their videos, which is a war report and other things, some more good stuff on there. But anyway, this is just saying Russia's first year of operation in Syria. So it's been a year since the Russians got involved, literally, with operations, flying, assisting the Syrian army.
Can I just put in stuff and just mention the episode that we did last year around this same time, where we first started covering Syria, really, didn't we? So anybody who wants to go and listen to the old episode pilot for season 2, we'll be able to see the sort of articles we covered back then and the change from today and what Stav's going to put out tonight.
Yeah, I mean, basically, what I could do, rather than read it, I mean, I could try and load the video, which is covered, is 6 minutes long, which covers basically what he says here. But I could play the video. What do you think? Or would you prefer me to read it?
Up to you. I mean,
I'll read it anyway. Perhaps
read it for those
it's not
that are not able to read.
yeah, it's not much of it anyway. But anyway, so it starts with this: to put Russia's 1 year of peacemaking operations in Syria in perspective, one should think back to what the situation was like on the eve of the arrival of the first Russian aircraft, support personnel, military advisors and military equipment to Syria. By all accounts, the Syrian government forces were in retreat on all fronts, being pushed back in Raqqa, Aleppo, Hama, Idlib and Latakia provinces. The Islamic State, the Jabhat al-Nusra, the so-called Free Syrian Army, and many of the other smaller rebel formations were conquering towns and military bases with their advance, triggering a flood of refugees into Turkey, Jordan and other countries. Syria stood practically alone, with some Iranian assistance for sure, against a seemingly motley group of rebel formations which, however, enjoyed generous financial, military and even operational support by several outside parameters, including the United States, Qatar, Saudi Arabia and Turkey, with Jordan and Israel maintaining a state of benevolent natural neutrality toward the rebels. In December 2015, the days of Assad government seem numbered. I would like to add the United Kingdom, France and quite a few other EU countries too. A lot of munitions being sold out there, as we know. Anyway, and in September 2016, virtually nobody expects in September 2016, virtually nobody expects the Assad government to fall. Even the US Secretary of State, John Kerry, in conversation with Syrian opposition, which were made available to US media, acknowledged that the anti-Syrian coalition has been outmaneuvered to the point that the long-standing US, NATO, EU mantra of Assad must go has become obsolete, to the extent that nearly everyone recognizes that the world is now multipolar. Russia's effective use of the military power in Syria is the single most important factor behind that shift. How did Russia manage to effect such a dramatic change in spite of seemingly overwhelming odds against it, in what is becoming a classic exercise in the use of military force? Question mark. The first secret of its success was the strict adherence to international law. To put it bluntly, US military operations on or over Syria's territory have no legal justification at all. Similarly, the support of the rebel groups listed above, most of whom allegedly pursue a radical agenda, employ large numbers of mercenaries and don't hesitate from committing atrocities to impose alien political dogmas, violates all manner of fundamental international norms, not the least of which are the concept of national sovereignty and self-determination. In contrast, Russians' operations are being conducted at the invitation of the sole internationally recognized government of Syria. If the comprehensive campaign of disinformation and propaganda that is intended to shield Western audiences from the reality of the war in Syria is any indication, Western governments are keenly aware of the immorality and the illegitimacy of their actions, and so in the rest of the world. I was going to say Bell Pottinger there, PJ. But secondly, and also on stark contrast with the US and the NATO uses of military power, Russia's leadership appears to be aware of the limits, both the limits of the country's power and of what can be accomplished using solely military force. There is no trace of hubris of Russian exceptionalist rhetoric in either the political aims being pursued or the military means which are used to accomplish them. In military sense, the goal of the operation is a modest one, the denial of victory to the West-backed jihadist coalition. Once that objective is achieved, once every major anti-Syrian Syrian actor acknowledges that Syria's legitimate government or Russia's military presence in Syria cannot be dislodged by any combination of political and military measures, they will be forced to negotiate a peace settlement that will preserve both the territorial and political integrity of the Syrian state. To be sure, that modest military objective did require a wide range of measures to accomplish. The most urgent was the refashioning of the crumbling Syrian army into a military force capable of recovering the lost territories. While in the immediate term, that task could be addressed by an aggressive bombing campaign that took the jihadists unaccustomed to being opposed by modern air force by surprise. But the air campaign was not intended to defeat the jihadists by itself, but rather gain time for the re-equipment and retraining efforts to bear fruit, which they begin to by the first months of 2016. Moreover, in the event that the jihadists were expecting to outlast Syria and Russian forces, the campaign of aerial interdiction of rebel supply routes and the Islamic State's oil infrastructure was aimed at undermining the opposition's long-term ability to sustain the war effort. However, the jihadists and Walgis are the most dangerous foes faced by Syria. The Russian military had to minimize the prospect of a direct NATO military operation against the Syrian military, and that, as in the case of Libya, would have been spearheaded by US air power. The goal of conventional deterrence against both air and land NATO incursions was achieved, though only after the loss of one Su-24 bomber, treacherously shot down over Syria by Turkish fighters. By the deployment of advanced S-400 air defense systems, Su-35 fighters, and Iskander-M tactical ballistic missiles, and the demonstration of the power of Russia's air and sea-launched cruise missiles, which would have struck US air bases throughout the Middle East in the event of any escalation. This effort has not been without cost. 20 Russian servicemen have lost their lives in Syria in the space of last year. The Russian military has also lost, in addition to the Su bombers, several attack and transport helicopters. The effect, however, has been nothing short of spectacular. Rebel forces are in retreat on nearly every important sector of the front, and even the crucial struggle for Aleppo, which has reached the scale of a general battle that will decide the future of Syria, has decisively swung in Syria's favour. Outside Syria, both friend and foe have taken note. Russia's engagement has served a veritable seed capital that drew larger contingents of Iranian Revolutionary Guards, Iraqi Shia militias, and Lebanon's Hezbollah into the fray. Turkey has opted for what amounts to be a negotiated separate peace with Russia and Syria in exchange for a free hand to focus on the Kurdish threat to its sovereignty. Even the US, whose leaders are permanently invoking Plan Bs in an effort to intimidate Russia, is finding itself without viable policy options. While the war is still far from over, after 1 year of intervention, all the political and military trends in Syria are now in a positive direction. Well, I mean, that's what has happened, and it's backed up by what's happening on the ground. The fact that they're panicking, the Americans and that, with Aleppo being taken back, because once Aleppo goes, it's pretty much over. And they've got half the city, and they're going into I think it's the west now, because they've pretty much cut off what's left of the militants, or whatever you want to call them, terrorists, and actually are being offered a free passage to another part if they want it. But if they don't, then they're just going to be completely destroyed. But anyway, I think it's a fair piece about where we are now in the state of play, and I think the Americans' grip on military hegemony is definitely slipping, and it will slip, and it will slip quicker than what they think it will, because I think other countries in the Middle East are now turning to Russia. I think Egypt's turning to Russia. Turkey seems to be, I mean, he's a pretty slippery guy, that Erdogan. It's, you know, he wouldn't be the sort of bloke to watch, you know, what you put first on the list to watch your back. But you know, I think they're all kind of looking at Russia and saying, well, this is, and of course there's rumours now that they're going to open up more bases in Syria. Definitely negotiating to put a base in Egypt, a military base, Russia, and also, who knows, maybe the Americans will be asked to leave Inchylik, and the Russians may take that over. Who knows? Nobody knows, but there's certainly a lot going on. And after the stuff you showed, PJ, I think anybody turns around and they say, well, you know, I'm kind of sided with the Russians on all this. You can't blame them. But, anyway, moving on. Now, some people say this site's a bit iffy, but I'm just going to use it for this. I think it's fairly accurate, and it leaves out a lot of other bits and pieces. But just to sort of say, well, how did we get here, basically, pretty quickly, and how did this all kick off in modern terms with the West creating, should we say, back in these terrorist groups in the Middle East? Well, this is America created Al-Qaeda and the ISIS terror group. It says there, where do we start? Incisive article originally published by GR September 2014, Global Research. Give them their shout. Terror attacks and mass shootings allegedly perpetrated by ISIS. The question that should be asked, who are the state sponsors of Al-Qaeda and ISIS? And it says here, much like Al-Qaeda, the Islamic State ISIS is made in the USA and an instrument of terror designed to divide and conquer the oil-rich Middle East and to counter Iran's growing influence in the region. The fact that the United States has a long and torrid history of backing terrorist groups will surprise only those who watch the news and ignore history. The CIA first aligned itself with extremist Islam during the Cold War era. Back then, America saw the world in rather simple terms. On one side, the Soviet Union and the Third World nationalism, with America regarded as a Soviet tool. On the other side, Western nations and militant political Islam, which America considered an ally in the struggle against the Soviet Union. The director of the National Security Agency under Ronald Reagan, General William Odom, recently remarked, by any measure, the US has long used terrorism. In 1978 and 79, the Senate was trying to pass a law against international terrorism. In every version they produced, the lawyers said the US would be in violation back then. During the 70s, the CIA used the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt as a barrier, both to thwart Soviet expansion and prevent the spread of Marxist ideology among the Arab masses. The United States also openly supported Sarekat Islam against Sukarno in Indonesia and supported the Jamaat al-Islami terrorist group against Zulfikar al-Bhutto in Pakistan. Last but certainly not least, there is Al-Qaeda. Least we forget the CIA gave the birth to Osama bin Laden and breastfed his organisation during the 80s. Former British Foreign Secretary Robin Cook told the House of Commons that Al-Qaeda was unquestionably a product of Western intelligence agencies. Mr. Cook explained that Al-Qaeda, which literally means an abbreviation of the database in Arabic, was originally the computer database of the thousands of Islamists, extremists, who were trained by the CIA and funded by the Saudis in order to defeat the Russians in Afghanistan. America's relationship with Al-Qaeda has always been a love-hate affair, depending on whether a particular Al-Qaeda terrorist group in a given region furthers American interest or not. The US State Department either funds or aggressively targets that terrorist group, even as American foreign policy makers claim to oppose Muslim extremism. They knowingly foment it as a weapon of foreign policy. The Islamic State is its latest weapon that, much like Al-Qaeda, is certainly backfiring. ISIS recently rose to international prominence after its thugs began beheading American journalists. Allegedly now, isn't it, PJ? Now the terrorist group controls an area the size of the United Kingdom. In order to understand why the Islamic State has grown and flourished so quickly, one has to take a look at the organization's American-backed roots. The 2003 American invasion and occupation of Iraq, preconditions for radical Sunni groups like ISIS to take root. America rather unwisely destroyed Saddam Hussein's secular state machinery and replaced it with a predominantly Shia administration. The US occupation caused vast employment in Sunni areas by rejecting socialism and closing down factories in the naive hope that the magical hand of the free market would create jobs. Under the new US-backed Shiite regime, working class Sunnis lost hundreds of thousands of jobs, and like the white Afrikaners in the South Africa, who were allowed to keep their wealth after regime change, upper class Sunnis were systematically dispossessed of their assets and lost their political influence. Rather than promoting religious integration and unity, American policy in Iraq exacerbated sectarian divisions and created a fertile breeding ground for Sunnis discontent, from which Al-Qaeda in Iraq took root. The Islamic State of Iraq and Syria used to have a different name, Al-Qaeda in Iraq. After 2010, the group rebranded and refocused its efforts on Syria. These essentially three wars being waged in Syria, one between the government and the rebels, another between Iran and Saudi Arabia, and yet another between America and Russia, is a third neo-Cold War battle that made US foreign policy makers decide to take the risk of arming Islamist rebels in Syria, because Syrian President Bashar al-Assad is a key Russian ally. Rather embarrassingly, many of these Syrian rebels have now turned out to be ISIS thugs who are openly brandishing American-made M16 assault rifles. America's Middle East policy revolves around oil and Israel. The invasion of Iraq has partially satisfied Washington's thirst for oil, but ongoing airstrikes in Syria, economic sanctions on Iran, have everything to do with Israel. The goal is to deprive Israel's neighbouring enemies, Lebanon's Hezbollah and Palestine and Hamas, of crucial Syrian and Iranian support. ISIS is not merely an instrument of terror used by America to topple the Syrian government, it is also used to put pressure on Iran. The last time Iran invaded another nation was 1738. Since independence in 1776, the US has been engaged in over 53 military invasions and expeditions, despite what the Western media's war cries would have you believe. Iran is clearly not the threat to regional security. Washington is. And an intelligence report published in 2012, endorsed by all 16 US intelligence agencies, confirms that Iran ended its nuclear weapons program in 2003. Truth is, any Iranian nuclear ambition, real or imagined, is as a result of American hostility towards Iran and not the other way around. America is using ISIS in three ways to attack its enemies in the Middle East, to serve as a pretext for US military intervention abroad, and at home to foment a manufactured domestic threat used to justify the unprecedented expansion of invasive domestic surveillance. By rapidly increasing both government secrecy and surveillance, Mr. Obama government is increasing its power to watch its citizens, while diminishing its citizens' power to watch their government. Excuse me. Terrorism is an excuse to justify mass surveillance in preparation for mass revolt. The so-called war on terror should be seen for what it really is, a pretext for maintaining a dangerously oversized US military. The two most powerful groups in the US foreign policy establishment are the Israeli lobby, which directs US Middle East policy, and the military-industrial complex, which profits from the former group's actions. Since George W. Bush declared the war on terror in October 2001, It has cost the American taxpayers.
Oh, we do seem to have lost Stav in the middle of his reporting there. He will be joining us, so I'll just take the leads for now. And we'll commence when he gets back. So I just want to point this little interview that was done on the 17th of August, I think it was. Yeah, 17th of August, 2016. And it's the Dirty War in Syria, Dr. Tim Anderson's full interview. Go and have a listen to that, guys, because this is basically the global research founder or co-founder and author of the Dirty War on Syria book. Still waiting for Stav. Okay, I'll move into this one, because if you didn't think US or Saudis are backing ISIS, then check this one out. US Saudis to grant 9,000 ISIS fighters free passage from Iraqi Mosul to Syria. The US and Saudi Arabia have agreed to grant free passage to thousands of Islamic State militants before the Iraqi city of Mosul is stormed. The jihadists will be redeployed to fight against the government in Syria. A military diplomatic source told RIA Novosti. According to the anonymous diplomatic source, US President Barack Obama has already sanctioned an operation to liberate Mosul, due to take place this month in October. During the storm of the city in northern Iraq, the US-led coalition's planes would only strike detached, vacated or uninhabited buildings while keeping terrorists as targets, he said. I think we've got Stav back. Are you with us?
Oh, mate, what happened there?
I'm not too sure. I just carried on putting this article out. I'll just point it to your attention and then I'll let you have it back. I was just saying, if nobody thinks that, you know, US and Saudis are backing ISIS at the minute, well, they've just granted 9,000 fighters at ISIS free passage. Are you ready to carry on?
Yeah, I think I've got me tabs back. Where was I? Sorry about that. I just really don't know what that. No, we don't want that. It was nearly. I was nearly to the end of it. I said in 90. Where was I got to? Where did I get to?
Share your screen.
Oh, I've got it. I've got it. Yeah. Sorry about this. Right. Is that it? Are we back on?
Yeah, back on.
Well, I'll just pick it up from this paragraph. By rapidly increasing both government secrecy and surveillance, Mr. Obama's government is increasing its power to watch its citizens while diminishing its citizens' power to watch their government. Terrorism is an excuse to justify mass surveillance in preparation for mass revolt. The so-called war on terror should be seen for what it really is, pretext for maintaining a dangerously oversized military. The two most powerful groups in the US foreign policy establishment are the Israeli lobby, which directs US Middle East policy, and the military-industrial complex, which profits from its former group's action. Since George W. Bush declared the war on terror in October 2001, it has cost the American taxpayer approximately $6.6 trillion and thousands of fallen sons and daughters. But the wars have also raked in billions of dollars for Washington's military elite. In fact, more than 70 American companies and individuals have won up to $27 billion in contracts for work in post-war Iraq alone and Afghanistan over the last 3 years. According to a recent study by the Center for Public Integrity, according to the study, nearly 75% of these private companies had employees or board members who either served in or had close ties to the executive branch of the Republican and Democratic administrations, members of Congress, or the highest level of military. Some democracy, eh? In 1997, a US Department of Defense report stated The data show a strong correlation between US involvement abroad and an increase in terrorism attacks against the US. Truth is, the only way America can win the war on terror is if it stops giving terrorists the motivation and the resources to attack America. Terrorism is the symptom. American imperialism in the Middle East is the said cancer. Put simply, the war on terror is terrorism, only it is conducted on a much larger scale by people with jets and missiles. That pretty much finished that. Sorry, it got broke up. I actually went over that first paragraph twice tonight, but there we are. And you know, this is it. You know, there's some in there where people say, "Well, it wasn't the oil; it was this for that." Well, it's just one of many, many, many. But we should all get an idea of the game by now, what's going on. And there's many factions to it, PJ, as you say, the propaganda side of it with Mel Pottinger and one of many, many firms. And then you've got the arms trades. Look at the billions and trillions in arms trades. I mean, people don't realise they pay their council tax, and every penny of that goes to their council, which invests it in pension schemes, right, in things like BAE. To finance these in their shares, and then they take the profits from them and steal them off in some offshore place. And yeah, council tax don't pay for anything, absolutely nothing. The biggest scam going, I think, as all taxes are, really, when you look at it. But anyway, that's
one of the biggest scams.
One of many.
And don't forget the contract with Russia, where there was, you know, for the treaty of gearing up the nuclear arms and whatever.
Oh, the proliferation treaty, where they was, you know, the Americans were buying the uranium and using it in their power stations, grinding it down into pellets and using it in their power stations to power America.
Well, that's all over and done with. The last shipment of wherever it were has gone over to America, and that's all done with now. So let's see what changes come out of the woodwork.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, I've got one quick more one. Then we'll go back to yours, and then I'll finish off with one towards the end. Before you
sure. I just pointed out Tim Andrews' book and also an interview that he's recently done as well.
Okay, right. Well, this is kind of something that came on Facebook, social media. It was at first people put it out, and it's actually blown up in their face. Justice warrior's face, whatever you want to call them. But there was a thing put out there about Lily Allen going across the camp jungle.
Why did you leave Afghanistan?
I see the video.
I know you're trying to get onto the lorries every night, but from what I'm hearing from the refugee volunteers here in the campus, that you have got a legal right to be in the UK. So I wonder, have you started that process? Have you filled out the forms? Just seems that 3 different intervals in this young boy's life, the English in particular, have put you in danger with, you know, of your country, put you in the hands of the Taliban, and now putting you at risk, risking your life getting into our country. I apologise on behalf of my country. I'm sorry for what we put you through.
Well, very good, Miss Lily. Well, very good. Well, this is just broke. I think it was today. And basically, that young fellow is 13 who comes from Afghanistan because he's in danger that the Taliban on one side will kill him and ISIS on the other. So his father, who's already in England, came here many years ago, 7 years ago, as an asylum seeker, and granted it eventually. Anyway, long story short, it's in the article. But father of Calais migrant boy who moved Lily Allen to tears unmasked as Islamist fighter. So here we are. It says here the 13-year-old Calais migrant who moved Lily Allen to tears and compelled her to apologise on behalf of Britain is the son of former Islamist fighter, it has been revealed. The tearful pop star was ridiculed for telling migrant boy Shamshir Shereen she was sorry we put you in the hands of the Taliban while volunteering for a charity in the Calais jungle last week. But it turns out Shamshir's father fought with the Islamists Mujahideen in Afghanistan and only fled the country because he feared the UK-backed Afghan Northern Alliance. Hazrat Gul Sherin came to Britain, this is his father, on the back of a lorry and was handed benefits and a job on a construction site. Before he fled Afghanistan in 2005, Mr. Sherin was a staunch supporter of Sunni warlord Gulbuddin Hekmatyar, I can't pronounce that, but anyway, Hekmatyar, who led military group Hezb-e-Islami and was dubbed the Butcher of Kabul for the campaign of death and destruction he waged to gain control of Afghanistan's capital in the 1990s. Despite supporting the leader, known for executive intellectual and attacking women with acid, Hazrat was allowed to stay in the UK after sneaking into the country. He went on to claim benefits for 7 years while living in Birmingham until 2012, when his application for asylum was granted and he began working on building sites. Mr. Sherin then returned to Afghanistan for 2 3-month holidays, despite having claimed that he feared for his life there. He told the Mail on Sunday, "I was not escaping the Taliban. I'd been a commander for Gulbuddin Hekmatyar and the Hezb-e-Islami for many years and was put in charge of the village of Shershir in Jalalabad. I had a profile then. Everyone was scared and could not say anything, but when the Western-backed government took over from them, the villagers realised I had no power and turned on me, and our house was shot at. We fled over the border to Nasalbag in Pakistan, but somebody snitched on me and a bomb was planted at a local mosque intended to kill me. I was injured in the blast and have 3 bits of metal in my body still. We had to move again to Tira, and it was then I knew I had to escape to build a better future for my family. My father had some money and I sold land and I used that to make my way to Britain. I did not know anyone there, but I heard they had the best human rights in Europe. It was very hard to leave. My wife, N.W.O, had just had our 4th baby, but I had no choice if I was to look after their future. Mr. Sherin, who is now 49, said that he first became involved with the Butcher of Kabul at 15 years of age when he joined the Mujahideen fighting the Soviet occupation. By 21, he was a commander in charge of 70 men. He said, I was very good at shooting at planes. Gulbuddin would give us the guns and the orders, and I was in control of the area. We would sometimes be told to attack other villages. Supporters of Hezb-e-Islami are believed to have assisted Osama bin Laden and Taliban fighters by providing them the safe passage to Pakistan after 9/11. Mr. Sherin said that he is now hopeful that his son will be able to join him in Birmingham soon. Controversially, Lily Allen told Shamshir, "We bombed your country. We put you in the hands of the Taliban and now put you in danger of risking your life into our country. I apologize on behalf of my country. I'm sorry for what we have put you through." Well, like most of these pop stars, whatever they are, haven't had to do a hard day's work in their life. Lives off the back of our father, got contracts, how many millions?
I mean, she's got there's a meme going about, which I'm sure you've got to have come across, where it basically states, you know, she's got a massive house, loads of bedrooms, so many baths and this and that. Why can't she take some Syrians in?
Yeah, or Branson. How about Branson sticking them on his island? He can put a few dozen there, can't he? You know, people like that who's all pro-EU, pro-immigrant, all this business and whatever. But, I mean, this is just one story that, you know, I guess it all checks out. This guy's here, he's done this here.
I don't get that bit where he'd come over here and, you know, got benefits and a job and this and that. And I mean, my neighbours that I used to live next to came from North Iraq, and they'd lost most of their family, you know, being blown up and things like that. Come same way, back of a lorry or underneath. And this guy, he had to go nearly 10 years before he were getting right to stay and given a passport and all that. And he had to sofa surf and scrounge for 10 years after going through all that. And this guy comes over here and gets it all. I mean, I'm not getting onto that bandwagon of, you know, people claiming benefits here. I'm just saying my neighbours went through a lot more to, you know, get that right to stay and a passport than what this guy's dad seemed to have done.
Well, there's genuine asylum seekers, but you could probably count them in maybe hundreds a year that apply and go through the right channels. How many's granted?
I didn't think you were allowed to work, though.
Pardon?
I didn't think you was allowed to work if you're coming over here as, you know, asylum seeker.
Well, yeah, but he didn't. He didn't come over as asylum. He got here illegally on the back of a lorry.
So did my neighbours.
Yeah, but why didn't they go through the proper channels?
Because it takes too long.
Well, you can't come into a country illegally.
Well, they did.
I know they do, but you know, they have to go back.
10, 11 years later, we were getting right to stay.
And this is the problem. Well, this is the problem, isn't it, with asylum seekers? They will risk anything to get here illegally and then put their asylum claim in. So more and more people are going
I'd do the same.
Why? Why don't they go back to their country and fight for their country?
Well, obviously, yeah, but if you were planning on leaving, then I'd take the route of trying to get you in my own pace and having to wait.
I could understand it if they were coming here because, like, people go from here to Australia or Canada.
The biggest joke for me is that they picked this country to come to after everything we've put them through.
Yeah, exactly.
I tell you what shone out to me in that as well, how he left the country and his wife and 4 children. What about their safety? And that's happening a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, well, exactly. Because if he was a threat, if he feared for his life from, you know, from the army that took over, supposedly backed by the UK, whatever, right? And he had to do a runner because of all these villagers that he persecuted with the butcher of Kabul as his commander, and he'd go around killing people in other villages in Afghanistan as a terrorist, killing innocent people, villages, right? If he felt, you know, threatened by, it's just the whole thing is ridiculous.
And he enabled Osama bin Laden.
Yeah.
On his passage after 9/11. It's all like mixed up, isn't it? It's all, you know what I mean? You can't get to the real crux of any of it. You know what I mean? Because, like, obviously America started Al-Qaeda to get...
Well, yes,
you know,
well,
fighting with... And then, you know, it's just like, it's so twisty-turny, all of it. It's mad. The truth is in all this, you know?
No, don't. It just, for me, pushed me down that route to suggest that, or to have the observation that bin Laden did die a long time ago. And that's... And that's obviously...
Angela's got a good point there, and I haven't finished it, where he's left his family and his wife. He's done a runner.
After just having a baby. I mean, it's like, you know, you see that a lot, don't you? I mean, I've seen documentaries.
I think the guy's a coward, personally. I think he's a coward. Would you leave your wife?
Yeah.
So I got no respect for it.
No.
None whatsoever.
Not for that, but I mean, yes, there is genuine asylum seekers, and we, you know, like the West has put them in that situation. But it's like, you know, when you see a lot of these, you know, men coming over just and leaving their families. What's all that about?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
you don't,
yeah, but
You do have to appreciate these people who are coming over that have lost all their families, and they are the genuine ones, which is like my neighbours. But when they turn around and tell you that they think Tony Blair was a good man,
oh God,
that does wobble your head a bit.
But then again, that it'll be whatever propaganda they've been fed over there. I mean, you don't know, do you?
yeah, well, the other thing is, it's all part. I think, Angela, as PJ was saying, it's a big, multi-faceted, pronged, global. Because you can't. What, Germany 1.5 million in 18 months? 1.5 million asylum seekers.
The only thing that I can come to a conclusion in my head is all to do with the Greater Israel Project. Yeah. That's all I can think of that it's all about, because why are the Saudis not taking anybody in? Why are the Saudis paying for it? Do you know what I mean? They seem to be in league with Israel. It seems to be, and obviously America is, and Britain, all the Israeli lobbies. And then you've got Barbara Specter talking about we're not multicultural enough, and the Jews are going to help, you know, sort all that out, because we have to be multicultural, but, you know, the Jewish people have to marry Jewish people. Do you know what I mean? And then it just seems to, in my head, that's all I can think, that it's heading towards, you know, the Greater Israel Project. That's all I can see what's happening here. And you know, it's like when they don't want Putin going in there sorting everything out, because, you know, that's against the agenda, what they've got. I don't know. I mean, what do you think of that? I mean, what do you think all this is for?
I don't think it's just for the Israel's only benefit. They obviously have heavily influence in the Congress and the policy makers in America, because a lot of them.
Well, Al-Qaeda, ISIS or whatever they're called today, you know, they never seem to target Israel, do they?
No. That's right, absolutely. Because they
don't target Israel. They're right next to, you know, they don't, you know, us. I mean, in Saudi Arabia don't help. They're really, you know, they're supposed to be a Muslim country. It's just like, I don't know. I just think that's the only conclusion I can come to, is that it's for that reason, and also that fits in with all the people, you know, us being flooded by these people. God bless them, you know what I mean? And you can't blame them.
I think it's part, like, a lot of people have touched on the Kutan Kalaji plan, and I can remember when I was a teenager, records came into the charts after the so-called hippie movement of Melting Pot. You know, we're all one, we'll all mingle together, and we'll turn out chocolate-coloured people. We'll turn out
even the big coke heads.
Yeah, so this has been going for a while. It's been going for a while. They wanted to push this whole, you know, let's all get in the bed together. Let's all get in the pot together. There are no countries. There are no borders. There are no different races. There are no different religions. We're all one, which is all very nice in the spiritual world, if you're that type of person that, you know, looks into that side of it. But I don't think it can work in the physical world, because the
only way it's going to work is like the destruction of all the cultures.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? All the, which is like, you know, that's it, isn't it? That seems to be what I want, apart from Jewish culture. I'm not saying just the Zionist agenda, you know, it seems to be that's what they want. I don't know, that's how I see it anyway.
Well, Zionist agenda has got nothing to do with the Jewish people, really.
I said that, that's why I said the Zionist, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because
I agree with
they're as much a victim as everybody else in all this game.
Yeah.
This is basically what we're talking about. Is an old article, global research again. 2007, global warfare were going to take out 7 countries in 5 years.
Yeah.
Most conspiracy theorists will already be aware of this, but this is for your people out there who are just getting into all this, because like I think we've
done an interview. That is.
Yeah. So I'll just put that one out. Need to move on now because we've already gone over his exceeded time, and I've got quite a bit to put out. But we'll have another.
Okay.
We'll have
But I pretty much just very quickly. I'll just no, I'll leave him to last because I'm not going to read the whole article. Go on, PJ, you carry on now. I've finished up mine for the moment, so I've just got one little thing, but I'll leave it to last. I'm not going to read the whole article; it's just the last couple of minutes. So,
all right. Yeah. Quick article from The Mind Unleashed, October 9th, asking the question: is the US, France, and Britain the real terrorists in Syria? It's an article you might want to go and read. The hypocrisy of the West and its corresponding mainstream media outlets is continuing to escalate. Although, instead of convincing us that Vladimir Putin of Russia and Syria's President Bashar al-Assad are the terrorists, the US, France, and Britain are showing the world that it is they themselves that are the terrorists, as they now openly and desperately support other terrorist groups in Syria. Okay, continuing from where I left off now, we've just gone through number 2. Quick down number 3, where public got a raw look at Hillary Clinton. And when it gets to a point, I think, when you've got people like Katy Perry and Madonna, you know, having to get naked just to support people's campaign, it just becomes, you know, too much. Number 4 is millions of Russian citizens prepare for nuclear war. And 5, bees put on endangered species list for the first time ever. So, you know, while you were stuck with Kardashian, they're just some of the other ones you missed. Back to Bureau of Investigative Journalism now. There's another old article from 2012. Asks how to get into the Houses of Parliament through the back door. Another article that I ain't got time to go into, but I will leave a link. Parts of the Houses of Parliament are over 900 years old. And as you might expect, there are a few cracks in the building. But it is not only droughts that find their way through the gaps. The financial sector and its lobbyists have found plenty of weak spots within Parliament, which enable them to gain vital access to policymakers, which is a bit about that other video that I showed at the start on the meetings and interviews and things that took place where they were secretly recorded and later exposed. Another one, Stephen Sotloff video, found by a group connected to Homeland Security and responsible for releasing fake Osama bin Laden video. Interesting that this is September 2014. Back then, this was sort of indicating on it. And it just goes into stating the video was first obtained by Site Intelligence Group. We should go and search for him. You'll also known as Site Intel Group, a relatively under the radar yet apparently very powerful non-profit research body that monitors jihadist movements. It's a report from US Today. One of the site's founders, Rita Katz, is a government insider with close connections to former terrorism czar Richard Clarke and his staff in the White House, as well as investigators in the Department of Justice, Department of the Treasury, and the Department of Homeland Security, according to the Source Watch. Her father was executed in Iraq as an Israel spy, a fact that suggests connection to Israeli intelligence. Go and check some of his articles, Sotloff's articles that he did. Quite a long list out there. I will attach a link for that. Back to Martin Wells now. This is his LinkedIn page. Just going to show you some of his experience in the past, you know, who he's worked with and what sort of projects he's worked on. Primate Planet, offline editor, Monkey Life, worked for BBC, is editor of The One Show. He's also done BBC Sports and various projects, editor for Consumer Series X RSY, offline and online editor for Crime Watch, but with Channel 4 on Posh Pawnbrokers, and offline editor of C5 Series Botched Up Bodies, that's Transparent TV, Boomerang Productions, some more with Crime Watch, Middle Child Productions, working on a C5 Series Dog Rescuers, presented by comedian Alan Davies, Freelance, Storage Orders, Britain's best holiday homes, the BPSP Iraq, and last one, I think, ITV. So he's had a good travel around. Next one, this is an interesting site, and these next few are ones what I want people who are watching this to go and research themselves and see what they can come up with. Go check this site out, TemplorAdvisors.com. Joseph is a founder of Templar Advisors. Prior to this, he was a senior consultant in another international communications firm and an investment banker with experience in equity capital markets and debt finance. At Templar, Joseph has coached many senior management teams, including the CEOs and CFOs of blue chip companies, mostly in Europe and America. He manages Templar's relationships with firms like Credit Suisse and Morgan Stanley. He is also very involved with asset management, hedge funds, and private equity firms, assisting them with their fundraising and marketing and overall communications. This is another one that Bell Pottinger's got associations with. Basically what they do. Oh, wait on. They do quite a bit. This is the philosophy side. The philosophy: you need to be understood. We make sure you are. One story, 1,000 possible interpretations. We believe in the power of necessity of precise communication. We also believe that every individual has their own way of communicating this story effectively. This is our philosophy. We ensure this happens. Another company, Intel Center. This is intelcenter.com. Counter-terrorism intelligence, when, where, and how you need it. Another one, VeriSign. There's a lot of Veris, so don't get them all confused with other ones, although some may be related. Security services, protecting revenue and brand by securing your online services. We'll check these guys out. And this one is Quadrilla Resources. As I was looking down Quadrilla Resources, I spotted Bell Pottinger Public Affairs, lobbying firms and consultants, Mark Linder. However, BPPA, which is that, appears to have lost the account after February 2014. I tried to do a bit of research in this with the time that I had and failed badly, really. So I guess it says, however, appears for a reason. So this is the guy, Mark Linder, on Common Purpose website. Mark is a director of sector reputation at Bell Pottinger San Frontier, which is, if you can remember earlier, is the one with the chemtrails in the back. Mark has previously worked for WPP as a global client leader, leading cross-company teams that focused on key clients. He is a board member of N.W.O Helsinki. He was the first ever chief marketing officer for KPMG. He's has directly developed international branding strategies and implementation for AT&T, Ford Motor Company, BP, Nokia, Vodafone, Anderson, KPMG, Ernst & Young, and McKinsey and Company. His interests include technology, skepticism, and the unattributed space. So go and look him up. Might find some interesting things. Not saying that any of these corporations or people have done anything wrong at this point. And finally, me 3 articles that I've looked forward to doing. This is sort of like trying to get you to be more aware with when you're looking across mainstream media, because although they don't really seem to be a main part to it, but propaganda these days, it still is important to keep up with what they're putting out. So go and check this one and have a good read. Psychological Operations Warfare, or PSYOPs. Capture their minds and their hearts and souls will follow. Goes into quite a lot. Unfortunately, I haven't got the time to read it. This is another one, easystrategy.com. The 36 strategies, a unique collection of ancient Chinese proverbs. The 36 strategies are a unique collection of ancient Chinese proverbs that describe some of the most cunning and subtle strategies ever devised by man. I loved looking at all this. It was very interesting. Some more you can click on here. Look, see these in blue. when you're looking at this article. Deceive the sky to cross the ocean, create something from nothing, startle the snake by hitting the grass around it, remove the firewood under the cooking pot, replace the beams with rotten timbers, and the honey trap. Yep, send your enemy beautiful women to cause discord within his camp. Where does that remind me of? My final one, Propaganda and Counter-Terrorism Strategies for Global Change. This is a book by Emma Louise Bryant. Last year she put this one out. I've read the PDF, which I will attach a link to. Quite interesting. Has some good key points and information, which I think you'll appreciate. So I managed to quickly go through all them. Hopefully not, you know, missing important parts, but I hope that you do take time to go and look it up yourself and see what you make of it. So that's that done, and my final piece is a little audio clip now from a few days ago, I think it were now, beginning of the week. And this is just a call that I did with Bell Pottinger, just trying to really ask them what they thought and if they wanted to make a statement as such. So I'll go ahead and play this. Unfortunately, there was some like radio frequency interference in it, so it was very hard for me to play this tonight. But if you can hear it, then it's all good. If not, then ask me for a copy and I'll send it you.
A quick call to Bell Pottinger.
Hello.
Hello, yes, good afternoon.
Hi, is this the press office?
This is Bell Pottinger, sir. How may I help you?
Hi, I'm just wondering if I can speak to somebody in regards to some information that's come to my attention.
Yes, what's regarding?
It's regarding Bell Pottinger's involvement with Pentagon.
Yes. May I have your name, sir?
Yeah, it's PJ.
PJ. And where are you calling from?
I'm calling from the United Kingdom.
Bear with me 1 second, thank you.
Right, thank you.
Hi, this is Amanda. Can I help you?
Hello there, did you say your name was Amanda?
Yes, I did.
Hi Amanda, my name's PJ. I'm just calling on behalf of a small media outlet online. The inquiry is just in regards to the announcement of revelations of Pentagon and Bell Pottinger's involvement.
Yeah, we're not making any further comment on it. So,
You're not making any further comments?
no one's making any comment on it.
Have you made some in the past already that I'm not aware of?
No, what I mean is we're making no comment beyond what is readily available.
Right, so could you just point me to what is actually already freely available?
Not really, no.
You couldn't help me out with that at all, so you're not willing to make a statement?
I work for James Henderson. I'm James Henderson's PA. I'm not in a position to make a statement on anything. What I do know is that in the past, we have not made any further comment on this because we had some inquiries about it a couple of weeks ago.
You've had inquiries, okay, so I take it there's nobody there to make a statement on this then, is that what you're referring to?
What I'm saying is that as an organisation, we are not making further comments.
Right, so my question is if you're quite indicating that you've made previous comments, so would you...
No, that's not at all what I said. What I said was we are not making any comments above and beyond what is already in the media.
So you're just ignoring it, basically?
No, not just ignoring it. Do you want me to take the details and have someone call you?
Well, my point of this call is to try and get to speak to somebody who's at least willing to, defend themselves. I mean, this is an impartial call that I'm trying to make. So.
Well, would you like to give me your details?
I can give you what details exactly are you looking for?
some contact details would be very useful if you want someone to call you back. Your signature and sentiment PA, I don't have the information that you're looking for, so I'm trying to ascertain how we are able to contact you if you want further contact.
Right, okay, well, do you actually know the person who would be able to approach this in?
My head, I've only been here for 2 weeks.
Alright, okay, no problem then. Yeah, sure, I can leave you an email address, telephone number, which would you prefer?
Both.
Say again, sorry?
Both would be great.
Both would be great. Okay, do you have a pen on there?
Yes, I do.
Okay, I'll give the email address.
Yeah.
It's AXIOM.
Yeah.
CURB @live.com.
Okay.
And you can just, refer that to the attention of PJ if you like.
Just PJ?
Yeah.
Okay, alright, well I will find out who is dealing with it, and if they wish to make a comment, they will get in touch with you. Did you want to leave your number?
I think the email would be more appropriate for now this time being round, because I'm not guaranteed of actually receiving anything from yourselves, am I really? With the sound of things. I mean, would you be contacting me to let me know that there'd be no further comments or anything like that?
No, I don't think we will. I think if we have something to say, someone will contact you.
Right, okay. I mean, I really appreciate and understand that this is in no way of an attack as such. It's just more, to give yourselves the opportunity to make a statement. But
so I just we need the opportunity. So,
okay, that's not a problem then.
Okay, good.
Okay, thanks for your time, Amanda.
Bye.
Bye-bye. So I think she said at the end, I don't think we need an opportunity to defend ourselves, but I might be wrong. There you go.
Well, Bell Potting again.
She sounded very defenseless, didn't she? Defensive rather. Yeah.
I do apologise for interference in that.
Sounds like you're having a shave, PJ.
I might as well have done with what I got out of room.
It sounded all right. You could hear it.
Right. It got to the... Well, yeah. We won't be making any further statements. Have you made some before then?
Well, I only asked because I just presumed that that's would have been the case with what she was saying, but no, the comment, which she was very good in stressing out, it's almost to me as if she was saying, no, none of us here in a position to say out, and we recommend that you don't say out either. That's the feeling that it gave me when talking to her, but that's just my opinion. I don't know. Interesting.
Yeah, well, in that their contracts go something like, make him an offer you can't refuse.
Well, I've checked the emails since and not had anything.
I don't know. It's just, yeah. Yeah, it was interesting. It was interesting, yeah, and yeah, all good stuff, mate. All good stuff, and
I weren't expecting anything from him. I just thought, why not ring them up?
yeah, well, supposedly human beings, aren't they? Could have talked about the weather, couldn't you? Really?
Any final comments from yourself, Angela, or so?
I just wanted to bring something up very, very quickly. I don't really want to read the whole article. Well, no, I won't bring that up. It's just about a BBC article about Donald Trump who done a talk the other night, rally after the last presidential debate, whatever it was, whatever you want to call it. And we know it's all wrapped in propaganda, whichever way you look at it. But the BBC basically, slating Obama for exposing the American government and what he called an illusion of democracy. Well, yeah, Obama's American, all American governments up to this point, basically, that, you know, it's not a government, it's not a democracy, it's nothing like that. It's a gang of white shoe boys. That's all it is. Like I say, like I just said, make her an offer you can't refuse. That's all it is. There's nothing about
Well,
democracy.
Trump was amazing, wasn't it, the other night? It was like very, you know, conspiracy theorist himself. And it made me laugh the way he said that, you know, he was an insider, you know, and it was great. You know what I mean? It's like such a pantomime that's going on, and like they're telling you, actually telling us out loud.
Yes, he is.
Pretty blatant. I mean, I've heard him in some documentaries and things like biography sort of things what I've watched, and his motto is you've got to be a killer to be a winner.
Yeah, that won't surprise me. I mean, it's a sad state of affairs when you've got those two, and that's the, you know, after the millions and millions of people in America, and you've got those two that run it, you know, in the forefront to be president, you know, and it's true. Like at the back, in the background, when they were talking, they've got the actual constitution, the words of the Constitution up in the background. It's like a mockery to it, isn't it? You know?
Oh, crikey, yeah. Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Yeah. I might be wrong, by the way. That's I think that's a quote from his father, Trump's dad.
All right. It could be.
But Donald does support that, and he does use it, I'm sure.
Donald wouldn't be where he was for the mafia, his mafia connections in New York. Do you know what I mean? And he's been ruthless all the way through, you know, like he's employed sort of illegal immigrants to build his, you know, buildings, and then don't pay them. It's true. But then you've got Hillary, who's literally got a kill list at the back of her. The people are calling her Hillary now. You know, I mean, God help the world if either of them get in. You know what I mean?
Well, this is something.
Go on, Sam.
Yeah, I mean, at the Cincinnati rally on the 13th, which was Thursday, Friday, he basically said, illusion of democracy controlled by a small handful of global special interests, rigging the system, and our system is rigged, the whole world knows it. I mean, maybe everyone knows it now, they want to be switched. And there's still a lot of people that, you know, go around with headless chickens or say, they don't look above the bloody steering wheel, or, you know, the next office chair, wherever they go and live, what they call a life. But, I mean, at least the guy he's speaking. The last guy who spoke anything like that, who was a president, was JFK.
No, I don't feed into that stuff. Not at all. Do you know what he's doing? He's you know, the internet is killing their lives. The internet, because we're, you know, because of things like this, people are talking. They stopped people talking, but now people are talking again, and they're researching and they're doing this, and the truth's getting exposed. He's only playing that. He's playing this game. He's saying all these things to, you know, to get the vote of the people now. That he is an insider. He still is an insider.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Their own propaganda right now, guys. Their own propaganda is their own.
Yeah, but so was JFK. So was JFK.
Yeah, they all are. They wouldn't be alive if they weren't insiders.
No, that's right. I think he just overstepped. That's all with JFK, and maybe there was something untoward about him that nobody knew in public. We're never going to know, you know. And he got assassinated. And
I don't believe for 1 minute Trump's changed into this like wants to save the world. He's a self-serving narcissist. Do you know what I mean? He totally is.
I remember watching
himself in the third, you know, person.
I remember watching American Apprentice a few years back, where it's Steve Baldwin, I can't remember his name, but he asked him, he goes, you can't have got to where you've got now without, you know, basically stamping on someone. And,
of course.
And his response was nothing but a smirk on his face.
Of course not. Of course not. Listen, when you go and collect, if you go and collect benefit, you're going to stamp on someone's face.
Yeah, I'll never forget that.
If you work for the system and you've got a job paying tax, you're stamping on people's faces. You can't get away from it.
Yeah,
Whether you deliberately do it or not, that's a different question. You obviously, we don't want to tread on a fly.
It just shows you the power of the propaganda when you've got a man there that's saying, you know, I mean, they've turned this grab the pussy into a joke.
I know, but what can we expect, Angela? That's the thing.
Exactly. No, I mean, I'm not going down the feminist route thinking that it's like, you know, but what I'm saying is, you saw that, you know, that was his counteraction. That speech all about, you know, the insiders, and I used to be one, and it was great, you know. That was a counteraction because, you know, he had to do it. It's like a game of chess, isn't it? You know, that was exposed, you know, about... And it made me laugh that it was a guy called Bush as well. And I was saying to my son, he's got to be related to the Bushes. Come on. And he is somehow. He is related to the Bushes. And it just shows you, like, throughout time, you know, they'll be saving things up on all of them. Everybody will be saving little bits up, you know what I mean? Because that was obviously a private conversation.
It's been put there by the system, and he'll get in. I don't think Hillary will win. I don't
know.
They're all allegedly related, from Bushes to Bin Laden's and everybody else.
Yeah, to the Queen, aren't they? They're all related to the Queen. Remember that little 12-year-old girl that was doing a project at school? And she researched every president. I think there was only one president that wasn't related to the Queen. Yeah.
I do think that it's all been set up for him, but then, you know, I could be wrong. What do I know? Who am I? I'm just an ordinary Joe like everybody else. We're trying to connect.
I don't think it's... I think he's, you know, like it's been said for a long time, her in. Do you know what I mean? That's why he's one of the forerunners, to get, you know, so Hillary can win.
Do you know what? I really, you say it doesn't matter who gets in, because we know the whole system is rigged anyway. He admits it, the system is rigged. So if it carries on being rigged, he can turn around and say, "Well, I did tell you it was rigged."
Yeah.
Good stuff. Have you ever seen a film called Wag the Dog?
Ah.
And Idiocracy. That's what's happening at the moment. Idiocracy. That film.
It's a mixture of Idiocracy and Wag the Dog.
Yeah.
Both.
But you see, what is the answer? Love, light, and peace, and we find this utopia on Earth.
But there is no. That's definitely not the answer.
I know, because if you go down that road, many of them will lead to a political party called Fabian.
I think that's what religion was about, you know, like with the Jesus thing. You know, that's why they went to crusades and stuff, and they rewrote all the Bible, like, you know, and Jesus turned the other cheek, and they made that into like, you know, so that you'd be passive and stuff like that. I'm sure Jesus didn't mean it in that way if he actually existed. You know what I mean? But they just use these things to, you know, and I think that's what this, you know, the love life, you know, this movement, you know, what do they call it? This whatever movement that is.
We call it love life.
Yeah. It's very detrimental to what we, you know, to the truth. That I think it is. Anyway, I just think it's like, I mean, it is good. It's, of course, it's good to love people and, you know, and all that sort of stuff. But you've got to have your guard up as well. You know what I mean? You've got to look at these people and see evil in them. You know what I mean? And the deceit and the manipulation. You've got to be aware. You can't just love everybody. I don't believe in that shit. I'm sorry, but I don't.
I know, but
think it's dangerous.
Yeah.
You got it right with great big washing machine analogy. And that's pretty much, I think, it is. I mean, the only way you can stamp out a bad habit is to get seriously bored with it. And how long is it going to take? That's the question.
Well, I'm pretty bored with this already. I couldn't care less if the internet went tomorrow. It wouldn't bother me. I mean that sincerely. I'll get on and do my thing. But I mean, a lot of people couldn't now. They'd commit suicide. You take a mobile unit off of a teenager or a young adult today, the world is gone.
Yeah, there were a time where if we were talking about anything like this or putting out, you know, mainstream articles, which is being dubbed fear porn now, I mean, the reality of that is these people out there who've just literally killed themselves over pure propaganda.
Yes, it's all propaganda.
It terrified them so much, and that is so sad.
Well, that's the terrorism. I mean, like the media is the terrorist part of the terrorist network. Totally, it is. It's 1984, isn't it? You know, seen up on the screens all the time. You know, the war in Eurasia and the war in Oceania, and that's what we're living with all the time, and all this threat. And now, at the moment, if it's not the bloody, you know, moons that are going to, you know, all these moons and the planets aligning, and 2012 and planes falling out, it's constant one after another, and now it's the threat of nuclear war that everybody's frightened of. You know, telling people to stock up for 10 days, and it's constant fear. So you can't release your mind to, you know, the people to. They're always, well, it is. They're living in fear. It's the biggest terror. It is.
Yes, well, I think that's. I mean, if you lose the fear, there's nothing to worry about, and it doesn't really matter what happens. It doesn't. None of it matters at the end of the day if you've got no fear.
Yeah, we're all going to die. I mean, of course,
absolutely.
You know, we're in our little network. We've all got. You know, a lot of us have got families, and you know, they know. That's how they know to get us by the balls, is because we think about our families and our children, and
you know,
the future.
You know,
that's what it's.
The sad thing, because you're similar age to me, is that even what we used to call, I mean, it's a man-made thing made by governments, working class people. You know what I mean by that. It's not about I earn a living with my hands. Working people who lived in communities under like the working class banner or whatever, is that the morals that all of these people have given away and destroyed. That's the sad thing, that local people that I would know, the generations before them, would never have done what the generation did.
Well, because the church had hold of us then, in our minds. I think, you know, in the minds of the masses, the church had hold of people. And now that, you know, the people are rejecting the church. And so the nanny state's taken over that, you know, fear porn for them. And damnation, but now it's like fucking terrorists and stuff, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
They would have done it.
That's right. My dad always used to say his morals was, you can ask me anything, but you tell me nothing. You can't tell me nothing.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean by old decent morals, where people stuck together and you had a community. And that's all I would love dearly to people to embrace again. But not this bullshit reality that, you know, they're fed 24/7 about, you know, it's basically, you know, piss on it because you want something and he can do without. They couldn't care less.
But that's where the Kardashians come into it, isn't it? It's like, you know, that's exactly where they're coming to it, and the Chelsea show and the Geordie Shore and these sort of shows. You know, you can remember when they started coming, well, not them ones, but the fly on the wall shows. You know, it was like 1 minute there was no fly on the wall shows, and then it was like just about every show on the television was a fly on the wall thing. And it was, you know, like you've got the benefit streets and this and that and the other, and I don't know, it's just that's what's destroying it.
Very,
you know, like sort of.
The other thing is about all of this today, it didn't seem like it when I was a kid. Maybe I had a blindfold on, I don't know. Today's society is totally and utterly parasitic.
Well, it is. It's the Brave New World.
Everybody else. Hey?
Well, it's heading towards the Brave New World. That's what it is, isn't it? You know, it's breaking down. I mean, there's no genders. You know, we could go through it all again. You know, it's definitely Aldous Huxley's Brave New World that we're stepping into.
Yeah.
There's no cultures. It's just all one thing. Even, you know, like even the sex of people. You know what I mean? It's all just the one.
Do you know what? I look at that. What a load of silly nonsense. That's all, and I leave it there. Because it's to me, it's just bloody silly nonsense. I don't know who I am. I'm so confused, but I want my rights. But what are you? I don't know. What rights would you like? I don't know who I am. It's fucking mad. Sorry, I swore, but there you go. Totally.
Let me play out with a tune before we go then, yeah?
Yeah, go on.
All right, mute up then. And I'll close it off with this. You muted? All right. This is Payday Monsanto.
History has shown your genetic disease, you're parasitical prone, you can never be pleased. Everywhere you've gone, you've been treated for fleas. It's time to delouse the house, we don't need none of these. Arming themselves to the teeth while taking Americans' guns, and all the time they're having so much fun. Just take a look what they done. Just take a look, just take a motherfucking look what they done.
They took the gold from Gaddafi and the petrol from Hussein, playing God with Assad's democratic regime. All over your Talmud vision, ISIS is seen, but that big plasma screen is a crisis machine. High definition for the Goyim, holy roller hoax, Elia Ehrenberg's dream. There's too many facets for you to understand the plan for plundering opium and lithium in Afghanistan to justifying a fraudulent crisis to attack Iran and finalize the greater Israel by taking Pakistan. Just look at the blue borders on their vile flag. The designer of that thing is a foul fag, acting like it represents Talit or this and that. But I had seen the 1947 Rabbi Fishman map. The green, Lord have mercy, you won Iraq, Syria, Egypt, and even a little piece of Turkey. Tell me, when will your avarice cease? Time immemorial, you acted like nefarious beasts. I can't follow your holla hoax dollar score, especially when the Holodomor killed a lot more. I highly recommend it, that rhetoric, you should end it. Your anti-Gentile penchant has me very offended. And with a straight face, you embrace how it's right. You're overplaying your sympathy card again, Talmudite. The people you call Goyim are starting to awaken. And if you haven't noticed, they're focused on taking back their nation. Historically parasitic of the degeneration. That is why you've been kicked out of 109 locations. People you call Goyim are starting to awaken. And if you haven't noticed, they're focused on taking back their nation. Historically parasitic of the degeneration. That is why you've been kicked out of 109 locations.
All I'm saying,
chosen knights lament.
God is not your real estate agent.
Philistine ain't for rent.
All I'm really saying,
chosen knights lament.
God is not your little real estate agent.
The Levant is not for rent. I can visualize the laughter when they pass the bill like NAFTA and tell you there's a crisis named ISIS they've been after. They're setting off bombs, they're chopping off heads. Whatever boogeyman they can get under your bed. And if you refuse to turn your state into a comprador, you can bet your petrol we're about to have a proper war. You're not allowed to have a sandstone aquifer for independence. What the fuck you think they killed Gaddafi for? They don't like one world enemies. This is the same pack that whacked Jack Kennedy. This is the same clique that kidnapped the Lindbergh baby and murdered it ritualistically. The system is comprised for a liar's disguise. The lower you're willing to go, now the higher you rise. The less empathy you possess, the more capital you'll ultimately be able to invest in a fraudulent enterprise. The Talmudic lies are meticulously stacked. If you're able to deconstruct, it's ridiculously whack. The Talmudic eyes are specifically rat. You heard vampire killers? This ain't different from that.
All I'm saying,
chosen knights better lament.
God is not your real estate agent.
Or they're gonna be forced to repent. My friend,
all I'm saying,
chosen knights better repent.
Your actions have been kind of flagrant.
I don't think you quite understand it. All your sympathy cards have been spent.
All I'm saying,
I wanna give you a firm handshake. Break your knuckles, knock you the fuck out, wake you the fuck back up, and make your Rachel Corey pancakes.
all I'm saying,
the things I see you celebrating are utterly disgusting. From your eating of homins' ears to promoting all these queers to your baby penis sucking. This is fascinating.
all I'm saying,
you must be my sugar high.
God is not a real estate agent.
Come on, it's not hard to understand, my man.
All I'm saying,
you're a trombonic.
God is not a real estate agent.
What you doing here? What you doing here? You constantly claim you're a genius. While you suck baby peanuts, you like to mutilate. It's just a part of your nature. Disrespect your woman. Can you see there's a dichotomy? You'd have to be blind not to see. I mean, it's not about what you do to me. I'm simply making observations that I see. And what you accuse your opposition of is what you do. I rack my brain just trying to understand all of these atrocity crimes I see with my own eyes. But tonight has got me hotter than a hoarder's head. Make me want to take them way back into the slaughter shed. Their engineering is so glaring, it's a power shed. Imagine that, water coming out of German shower head. Oh my God, I'm so offended. He grabbed my arm, I think he bended. He grabbed my arm, I almost did a slide. I haven't felt this bad since my father died. These people have taste sacks. The psychological Ashkenazim disorder we should tax. It's so easy to diagnose. They feeding on the host, parasitic to the max.